The purpose of this video is to simulate the thermal greenhouse effect of the single-layer model described in the document linked in the description of this video. Before moving on to the experiments, let's first describe the setup used. A container is supplied with water through a tap A. It is equipped with a drain B. It is divided into two compartments C1 and C2, of identical dimensions, by a dividing wall D, the lower edge of which does not touch the bottom of the container. The space between the lower edge and the bottom of the container has been filled with modeling clay, through which a small yellow pipe of small diameter allows water to pass from one compartment to the other. A bowl F, inserted between the tap and the container, has 3 holes. There are 2 holes above the left compartment, and 1 hole above the right one. The holes can be sealed, allowing the supply flow to be distributed between the compartments. In each hole, a dip tube, G1, G2, and G3, was placed. The sole purpose of these tubes is to limit turbulence at the water surface. To draw an analogy with the single-layer model, simply consider that the water in the system represents energy in reality. In this case, a water flow rate corresponds to a power. Compartment C1 symbolizes the Earth's surface. Compartment C2 symbolizes the clouds in the atmosphere. The heights H1 and H2 of the water in each compartment, relative to the lowest point of drainhole B, are a measure of their respective temperatures. The volume of water in compartment C1, corresponding to height H1, represents the radiant heat accumulated beneath the Earth's surface. The volume of water in compartment C2, corresponding to height H2, represents the radiant heat accumulated in the liquid or solid water of the clouds. The height H2 depends only on the total feed rate, regardless of its distribution between the two compartments. The height H1 is greatest when only compartment C1 is fed. This corresponds to the case of an atmosphere completely transparent to solar radiation. Let's now move on to the small experiments. Initially, the hole in compartment C2 is sealed, while those in compartment C1 are not. This corresponds to the case of an atmosphere completely transparent to solar radiation. Let's mark the levels in each compartment with a line. Let's unblock the hole in compartment C2. All 3 holes are now free. 2/3 of the flow passes through compartment C1, and 1/3 through compartment C2. A new equilibrium is established. The level in compartment C1 has dropped. The surface temperature has decreased. The level in compartment C2 is unchanged. The cloud's temperature has not changed. Let's mark the level in compartment C1 with a line. Let's plug one of the 2 holes in compartment C1. 50% of the flow passes through compartment C1, and 50% passes through compartment C2. The atmosphere is less transparent, and the surface temperature decreases. A new equilibrium is established. The level in compartment C2 has not changed. Let's mark the level of compartment C1. Let's plug the hole in compartment C2. All the flow passes through compartment C1 again. We are once again in the case of a completely transparent atmosphere. The levels return to their initial values. You have just seen a thermal greenhouse effect at work. It is due to the presence of liquid or solid water in the atmosphere, which radiates as a gray body toward space and the ground. This effect has a very significant impact on temperatures. It is generally considered that the Earth would be 33 degrees colder in the absence of an atmosphere. This effect is wrongly attributed to the fluorescence radiation of greenhouse gases, which is of a completely different nature. Gases are incapable of radiating as a gray body. The experiments are now complete. It is time to draw conclusions. There are two types of greenhouse effect. The first is caused by the fluorescence radiation that characterizes greenhouse gases. We saw in a previous video that this effect is non-existent. The second is due to thermal radiation from liquid or solid water present in clouds. We have just seen that this effect is significant, but it is completely independent of greenhouse gases, whose name was particularly poorly chosen. The verdict is therefore clear: CO2 is innocent of all the evils of which it is accused. Simple reasoning, supported by small but convincing experiments, allows us to reach this conclusion. Science has been misguided for far too long by attributing a non-existent warming effect to a molecule essential to life. It is the first to blame for the disastrous situation we find ourselves in today. Of course, science is never settled, and it should be easy to demonstrate the flaw in my extremely simple reasoning. It's their simplicity that makes it very difficult to refute. Will we therefore witness a collapse of climate alarmism? Yes, I'm convinced, but it will take time. Probably much longer than I'd hoped. My recent discussions with lukewarm, warm mists don't make me optimistic. They interrupt the discussion when confronted with their contradictions. Let's first see how the climate realist sites will react. For more information, read the articles associated with this video. The links are in the description.